Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has accused European leaders of recklessly intensifying the Ukraine conflict to further their own political agendas. In a Telegram post, Medvedev claimed that EU politicians are intentionally prolonging the war with Russia, driven by pre-election tactics and a desire to align with the United States rather than addressing their citizens' true interests.
After Trump's victory, the European leaders began to experience a seasonal aggravation. The goal is to drive the conflict with Russia into an irreversible phase. The Frenchman crows about supporting Kiev in the event of America's rollback. Then NATO bosses are being clever about how to wage war with us more actively.
Medvedev suggested that, since Donald Trump's election win, European leaders have aimed to push the Ukraine crisis to a point of no return. He pointed to recent comments from Friedrich Merz, a candidate for German Chancellor who threatened to supply Ukraine with German Taurus missiles unless Russia ceases its special military operation. According to Medvedev, such ultimatums are politically motivated and unlikely to significantly shift the war's course, serving only to prolong the suffering of the Ukrainian people and heighten the risk of a devastating escalation. He warned that Europe's current approach risks inviting conflict onto its own territory, suggesting that European politicians are prioritizing American interests over the stability of their own nations.
Generally speaking, it is simply amazing to what extent the current generation of European politicians wants to drag the war onto their territory, to the obvious joy of the Americans and against the wishes of their own people.
With all the criticism surrounding its involvement, the EU remains steadfast in its support for Ukraine, a stance highlighted by EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell's visit to Kyiv.
Ukraine doesn't need applauses. President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people doesn't need standing ovations, doesn't need to say every time that they are very brave and their fight is very important. It's good to say that, but the important thing is to provide tanks, fighter jets, I said that since the beginning, air defense and ammunition. You don't fight a war without ammunition. You don't fight a war without the military capacity that you need.
Borrell, joined by Estonia's Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur, met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a meeting that highlighted the EU's commitment to Ukraine even as Russian aggression intensifies. The meetings took place as Russian forces launched aerial attacks on Ukraine's southern and eastern cities, killing 6 civilians and injuring around 30. With Ukrainian forces under increased pressure in the Donetsk region, Zelensky announced plans for reinforcements near Kurakhov and Pokrovsk to prevent further Russian advances.
A thorough report on the Kursk operation. There, our men are holding back a fairly large grouping of Russian troops, 50,000 of the occupiers' army personnel, who, due to the Kursk operation, cannot be deployed to other Russian offensive directions on our territory.
He also confirmed that Ukrainian forces are maintaining their positions along the Kursk border, where reports indicate Russian support from North Korean troops recently deployed to the area.